You're watching CW Montana. This is the MTN 9 o'clock news.
Good evening and thanks for joining us on this Thursday. Here's what's happening across the state tonight. A Helena High School choir receives the invite of a lifetime, the chance to perform at Carnegie Hall. Those details ahead. Plus, former U.S. Senator and Ambassador to China, Max Baucus, makes a trip to the University of Montana. We'll tell you why. But first, tonight, court documents reveal the minutes and evidence leading up to the last week's murder of a 57-year-old Laurel woman. This as her 22-year-old suspected killer faces a judge. Well, prosecutors say Lori Bray's body was found naked, strangled, and her head beaten. And it appears Bray was trying to do something nice, but instead ended up dead. Bray gave 22-year-old Diego Hernandez a ride home early on the morning of October 1st after her shift at the Cedar Ridge Casino. The casino surveillance video shows Bray opening the passenger door of her 2003 Chrysler for a man to get inside. Now, her vehicle was found later that morning on a road north of town. Her clothes inside appeared forcibly removed. Her body found a day later 3 miles away. Investigators say Hernandez's face was covered with scratches and he repeatedly changed his story when questioned. Hernandez maintains his innocence but provided a DNA swab before he was arrested on Tuesday night. Now, the judge set Hernandez's bond at $500,000. And a Billings man accused of killing an infant almost a year ago is now facing negligent homicide charges. 29-year-old James Palmer was arrested this week. According to court documents, Palmer told police he had put the infant, who was less than a year old, down for a nap and then discovered her unresponsive. A medical examination found the baby died of asphyxiation. Toxicologists also found the baby tested positive for methamphetamine and amphetamine. Now, it's not clear why it took so long to bring charges in this case, but Palmer's bond is set at $200,000. Tonight, a Ronan man is behind bars following a fatal shooting in the Mission Valley. Deputies responded to a reported accidental shooting in Ronan on Tuesday. However, it was later determined that 65-year-old Jim Lewis had been shot and killed by 78-year-old James Deaton. Now, the two men live at the same residence. Deaton is being held at the Lake County Jail as this investigation continues. Well, they were busted with 900 pounds of marijuana in Minnesota, but now 2 Montana men are off the hook after the huge seizure was ruled illegal and the charges dismissed. Jared DeRoche of Missoula and Alexander Gordon of Helena were caught with the pot back in March, which had a street value of more than $4 million. A highway patrol trooper said he pulled the men over because of a cracked windshield and crossing the center line, and that he thought it was unusual to be pulling a camper in March. But video from the trooper's car shows the vehicle had not crossed the line and that at least 5 campers passed by during that stop. Prosecutors now have 5 days to appeal. Well, the past couple of days have been dangerous ones on Montana highways. Snow and ice on the roads. Bad news for drivers and the men and women who are trying to lend a helping hand. Tonight, MTN's Cody Boyer shows us how troopers stay safe.
We got to push the limit as safely as possible.
Trooper D. Giovanna has been patrolling Gallatin County for about a year and a half. Seems like yesterday's and I-90 come with the snow and the territory.
We'll just say, hey, dispatch, where do you need us? And we're dispatched to pretty much the most serious one.
But the powder can turn a normal drive into a dangerous one quickly.
Just one person not paying attention, going over one bridge can shut down the interstate for hours.
As in this terrifying case back in 2015 near Missoula, a semi-driver lost control, smashing through another crash. Amazingly, even though the woman who was in a wrecked car was thrown into the median, everyone survived. But it is a worst-case scenario that D. Giovanna says could happen again in an instant.
Is anyone hurt out there? How quickly do we need to respond? Because it's dangerous us driving in those conditions as well.
Have you ever gotten your car with bad conditions and wondered if you're going to be able to come back? Is it ever something like that? You
can't think that way.
While yesterday is melting behind us, he says he and his fellow troopers are ready for the next wave.
Crashes, they happen where the road is the worst. So when people see those flashing lights, they need to slow down, recognize that something's going on up there, and react appropriately.
Thanks, Cody. And Cody says if you can't change lanes, do not panic, slow down and stick your course, keeping aware of your surroundings at all times. Well, proposed Montana rules for disposal of radioactive oil field waste drew some heated discussion today in Helena. The new rules would make several changes. The one drawing the most comment at today's public hearing would quadruple the amount of allowable radioactivity in waste accepted at any licensed site. Environmental activists say this change would make Montana a, quote, dumping ground for radioactive waste produced in North Dakota oil fields. Now, people from across the state say the higher limit isn't a good idea, and the state needs to be more active in monitoring those sites.
The greatest risk associated with adopting these draft rules is a seeming lack of will or ability of the Montana DEQ to effectively regulate the waste disposal sites. That's a huge factor in the success or failure of permitting waste disposal landfills to accept T-norm waste.
Now, there's currently only one location that accepts this kind of waste here in Montana, and it's located north of Glendive. DEQ is accepting written comment until October 21st and then has 6 months to adopt the final rules. Invasive mussels were recently found on a boat in the Mission Valley after it had traveled through 2 Montana check stations unnoticed. The boat was from Chicago and bound for Seattle. It was quarantined and decontaminated at the Valley Watercraft Inspection Station. It is illegal to transport mussels, dead or alive, into or within the state of Montana. This is the 15th mussel boat intercepted in Montana in 2019. Former Senator and Ambassador to China, Max Baucus, took a trip to the University of Montana today to share his knowledge with future leaders. Max Baucus was in Missoula to discuss foreign policies and how Montanans can get involved. He met with diplomat and author Michael Punka to discuss the tariffs on soybeans and wheat, as well as the political protests in Hong Kong. Baucus tells MTN News that while these policies might seem distant, the effects will impact people for many generations to come. He says that's why they built the Baucus Institute at UM to help educate people on the global economy.
So people in our part of the country want to go to for international relations or studying public policy, but with some special emphasis on China. And I say that because China is so going to determine our future. And we want to make sure it's determined in a way that makes sense to us.
Baucus served as one of Montana's U.S. senators from 1978 to 2014 and as the United States ambassador to China from 2014 to 2017. Well, a Helena brewery and local farm are teaming up to deliver a popular pumpkin ale. Lewis and Clark Brewery held a release party for the seasonal beer tonight. For the first time, Westmont Farm and Gardens grew the pumpkins used to brew the beer. The farmers provided about 70 pounds of pumpkin. The baked pumpkin gets directly added to the mash. Lewis and Clark Brewery then donates $1 from every pumpkin sold through 7 o'clock tonight to Westmont.
This looks like this will be a long-term deal that we're going to, be able to do for them, and we're looking forward to it because, it's more work for us and more work for our clients, and they want to give back to the community, and that's just awesome to have, a brewery like Lewis and Clark, be able to do this for us.
$1 from each pumpkin ale through 7 o'clock tonight. Now, Westmont will hold a Fall Fun at the Farm event on Saturday, October 19th. About 30 Helena High School students will get an opportunity to perform on one of the nation's most famous stages. Helena High Choir students are set to travel to New York in May and have been invited to perform at Carnegie Hall. Now, the students will be featured in a performance of Headwaters, a piece composed for them by singer-songwriter Maura Smiley.
I got very excited. I was like, wow, Carnegie Hall, that's like once in a lifetime. You don't get to do that ever again. So I was very excited.
A lot of our kids haven't left the state. Some of them haven't left the town. So it's huge for our students to get to go to a new state and across the country and be a part of this. So it's really special for our students here.
Now, this class is currently seeking to raise money for the trip. Students are planning a gala dinner and fundraiser November 2nd. Well, the early turn to winter means Glacier National Park likely won't break its all-time record for visitation, but 2019 will go down as its second busiest season. This is only the second time Glacier has topped the 3 million mark. The long winter and wet spring got summer off to a slow start, and the recent snow and cold shut most of the park down weeks early, but a great September made up for it. Nearly 500,000 visitors went through the gates last month, a jump of 12% over last year. Now that pushes this year's total to 3,067,000 people, the all-time Glacier visit record over 3.3 million people in 2017. Still to come on tonight's Statewide MTN News, a nearly century-old business handed over to a new owner, and both generations are working to keep the tradition alive. But first, how's the weather looking, Ed?
Much of the region will see record cold temperatures overnight tonight, but the overall trend is pretty pleasant. We'll have details with the forecast coming up.